My daughter tried to kill me with a box of Christmas chocolates, and I unknowingly saved my own life by giving them to her daughter. When she called me the next morning, her voice sounded cheerful. "Mom," she said, "did you like the chocolates I sent?" I smiled, still half asleep. "I didn't eat them," I replied. "I gave them to Lila. She loved them." There was silence, a heavy, unnatural silence. Then came the scream. "You did what?" The sound froze me. For a moment, I didn't understand why she was so upset. I thought Isabella was angry because I'd given away her gift. How naive I was. "My name is Nora Whitfield. I'm 68 years old, and I spent my whole life believing that love could fix anything, especially a broken family." That morning I was standing in my kitchen, the house still decorated with leftover Christmas lights. The empty chocolate box sat on the counter, shiny gold wrapping crumpled beside it. I stared at the space where it had been, trying to make sense of her reaction. I called her back immediately. She didn't answer. The second time she picked up, her voice was shaking. "Mom, don't eat anything from that box. Don't—" The call cut off. I stood there, holding the phone, hearing only the ticking of the wall clock. Lila's laughter echoed faintly from the living room. She was watching cartoons, the same way she did every morning during the holidays. Perfectly fine, perfectly alive. "Lila?" I called. "Did you feel okay last night?" She turned, smiling, her little hands sticky from breakfast syrup. "Yes, Grandma. Why?" "No reason," I said quietly. The unease wouldn't leave me. I looked again at the box. Dark red cardboard, gold ribbon, elegant label. Handmade Belgian chocolates. A card inside read, "To the best mom in the world, with love, Isabella." It had felt like such a sweet gesture yesterday. I hadn't seen my daughter in months. We'd argued before Thanksgiving, and she hadn't visited for Christmas. The package had arrived through a courier 2 days before. I had thought maybe it was her way of reconciling. But now, remembering her tone, sharp, panicked, terrified, I felt my chest tighten. I sat down, phone still in hand, waiting for her to call again. 10 minutes passed. Nothing. I tried her husband's number. No answer. Finally, I left a message. "Isabella, call me back, please. You're scaring me." Then I waited. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and Lila's cartoons, the ordinary sounds of a morning that suddenly felt wrong. I picked up the discarded ribbon, sniffed it out of habit. Almond. Faint, but clear. My mother used to say you can tell a lot from a scent. This one reminded me of marzipan and chemicals. I pushed the thought away. It couldn't be that. But something about Isabella's scream kept replaying in my mind. "You did what?" I went to the sink and rinsed my hands again, though I didn't know why. My instincts were louder than reason. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. I almost dropped it. "Mom," Isabella said, her voice trembling. "Listen carefully. Are you sure you didn't eat any? Not one?" "No," I said. "I told you. I gave them to Lila and her friends. They finished them last night." Her breathing quickened on the other end. "Isabella, what's wrong?" She didn't answer. I could hear her crying, muffled. Then she whispered, "Oh my God. Tell me what's happening," I demanded. "You're scaring me." The line stayed open, but she said nothing more, just sobs and a faint sound like someone pacing. Then the call ended again. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, my heart pounding, staring at the empty space on the counter. Lila came in holding her doll. "Grandma, Mom called me too," she said. "She asked if I felt okay." "What did you tell her?" I said, "Yes, I feel great." Then she started crying and said she'd call later. I forced a smile. "Good girl. Go play, sweetheart." She ran off, and I finally sat down. I couldn't stop replaying Isabella's voice, how fast it had changed from cheerful to terrified. Fear doesn't come from guilt. It comes from danger. I reached for the card again, tracing the words. "With love." People say a mother always knows when something is wrong. They're right. You feel it before you understand it. My instincts told me to keep calm. When you panic, you make mistakes. I took out my notebook, the one where I record grocery lists and bills, and wrote everything down. The time she called, what she said, how she sounded. Then I wrote one sentence under it. Find out what was really in those chocolates. At 10:17 a.m., the phone rang again. This time it wasn't Isabella. It was an unfamiliar number. "Mrs. Whitfield?" a man's voice asked. "This is Dr. Sanders from St. Mary's Hospital. We have your daughter here." My hand froze around the phone. "She was brought in this morning," he continued. "She's conscious but very agitated. She keeps asking if you ate the chocolates she sent. She insisted we contact you immediately." The world seemed to narrow to that single sound, his voice saying hospital. I didn't say anything. "Mrs. Whitfield?" he repeated. "Did you consume any of the chocolates?" "No," I said, my voice barely steady. "None. Why?" There was a pause, then he sighed. "Please stay where you are for now. Someone will come to speak with you soon." The line went dead. I looked at the empty box, at the neat little card, and at the sunlight falling across my kitchen floor. For the first time in my life, I felt afraid of my own child. The call ended, but the silence didn't. I stood in my kitchen with the phone still warm in my hand, eyes fixed on the red box. The gold ribbon shimmered under the light, innocent and cruel at once. I picked it up. It felt heavier than an empty box should. Lila had eaten the 12 pieces from the top tray, simple milk chocolates, but the weight was wrong. I pried up the plastic tray that held the empty wrappers. Underneath, hidden by a false bottom, lay a second row of chocolates. Darker, glossier. I lifted the box to my nose. The smell hit me instantly from that hidden layer. Almonds, bitter and sharp. My knees went weak. The top layer was a decoy. Safe, ordinary candy for appearances. The bottom layer was the weapon. If I had been the one to open it, as a treat for myself, I might have dug deeper. Lila, being a child, just grabbed what was on top. I found the note folded beneath that deadly second layer. I took a photo of the box, the note, the torn courier label. Then I sent a message. "Nora. Martin, I need you to check this address. Urgent. Martin. Trouble? Nora. Just questions that shouldn't exist. Martin Cole used to be a detective. Now he fixed things quietly for people who knew when to ask." A moment later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. "Mrs. Whitfield?" "Yes." "This is Dr. Sanders from St. Mary's. Your daughter's stable, but she's in shock. She told us about the chocolates. We need you and your granddaughter here immediately." "What's happening?" "We're testing what's left. Please bring the child at once." My voice stayed calm. "Understood." I hung up, turned, and saw Lila still humming softly. "Sweetheart, coat on. We're going for a drive." She smiled. "To see Mom?" I nodded once. "Yes." While she grabbed her gloves, I slipped the note into a zip bag and tucked it into my coat pocket. The box went into another, sealed tight. The drive to the hospital was slow. Snowflakes drifted sideways across the windshield. I didn't speak. Lila sang quietly to herself. At St. Mary's, the nurse took her hand and guided her down the hallway. "Just some quick tests, honey." I followed until they turned the corner, then stopped. A man in a white coat approached. "Mrs. Whitfield, I'm Dr. Sanders." "Isabella?" "She's resting. She had a severe anxiety episode. Told us she might have sent you a poisoned package. We're running tests." "What substance?" "We tested the samples from the hidden layer you brought in," he said, his face grave. "High concentration of cyanide." Cyanide. The word hit like a gunshot muffled by snow. "Your granddaughter is lucky," he continued. "Tests show she only consumed the safe chocolates from the top tray. If she had touched the bottom layer, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But we need to keep her overnight. You both should stay." "I will." He paused. "We'll have to inform the police. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." I nodded. "Good. Let them." He left. I sat in the waiting room beside the half-dead Christmas tree. The lights blinked slowly, unevenly. Behind me, footsteps echoed down the hall. My phone buzzed again. A message from Martin Sweetcraft Confections doesn't exist. Fake address. Fake license. "Nora, who paid for it?" Martin, working on it. Don't leave the hospital. I looked through the glass at the snowfall outside. The world looked peaceful, white, quiet, deceiving. I replayed the morning in my head, Isabella's voice breaking, that note under the cardboard, the smell of almonds. Someone wanted me gone. Not threatened, not frightened, gone. But whoever they were, they didn't understand one thing. I don't die easily. The hallway to the observation wing smelled of disinfectant and fear. Nurses moved quietly, their shoes whispering across the tile. I followed one of them until she stopped at room 214. Inside, Isabella sat upright in the hospital bed. Her face was colorless, her hands trembling. For once, she looked small. She turned when she heard the door. "Mom!" I stepped closer. "I'm here." She tried to smile, failed. You're not sick?" "I'm fine." Her throat moved as she swallowed hard. "Thank God." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you ate them." "I didn't." She stared at the blanket, twisting the corner in her fingers. "I didn't know, Mom. I swear I didn't." "Then tell me what you do know." Her breathing quickened. "Connor ordered the chocolates. He said it was a peace offering, something to make up for last Christmas. I thought he was trying to fix things between us. I didn't ask questions." I stayed silent. She went on. "I didn't know until this morning, Mom. I swear," she sobbed. "Then why did you call me screaming?" I asked. She took a shaky breath. "Because I found a bottle in his gym bag today, a small glass vial with a skull symbol. It was empty. And then I saw him smiling at his phone, waiting for it to ring. I realized he wasn't waiting for a thank you call. He was waiting for news of a death." She looked at me, eyes wide with horror. "That's when I called you. I was terrified I was too late." A nurse opened the door to adjust the IV, then left again. The room felt heavier once it was just us. "You realize what this means," I said. Isabella nodded weakly. "He wanted to kill you. Not just me. You sent the box." She pressed both hands to her face. "Oh God, what have I done?" I didn't move. "You're going to help me fix this." She looked up, shaking. "How?" "By telling the truth. Every detail, every date, every name." Her tears fell onto the blanket. "He said it was for the family. He made it sound like a gesture of love. I thought maybe he was finally trying." "Love doesn't hide invoices," I said flatly. A knock at the door interrupted us. 2 men entered, Detective Miller and his partner. His badge caught the fluorescent light. "Mrs. Whitfield," he greeted me. "We need to confirm some information. The hospital called about a suspected poisoning." "The chocolates came to me," I answered. "My daughter shipped them. The order came from a false company." He nodded, glancing at Isabella. "And Mr. Hayes?" "Missing since this morning," she whispered. Detective Miller took notes. "We've got an alert out. If he tries to leave the state, we'll know. Do you have the packaging?" I handed him the sealed bag with the red box inside. "Careful with the bottom layer. There's a note inside." He examined it. "We'll process it immediately." "Good," I said. "You'll find prints that aren't mine." He met my eyes. "You seem remarkably calm, ma'am." "Calm helps people stay alive." He gave a short nod and left with his partner. The room fell silent again. Machines hummed softly. Isabella looked at me, her face streaked with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "I believe that," I replied. "But belief doesn't erase facts. You gave a killer your trust. Now you'll give the police your statement." She nodded. "Will you stay?" "I'll stay until this ends." I walked to the window. Outside, snow thickened over the parking lot. Ambulance lights flickered red against the white ground. Behind me, Isabella whispered, "What are you going to do, Mom?" I turned. "What I've always done. Protect what's left." Her eyes followed me as I picked up the note and slipped it into my folder. "You think he'll come after you now?" she asked. "He already did." I adjusted my coat. "Now it's my turn." I stepped into the corridor. The air was cold, steady. Nurses passed by, their faces tight with exhaustion. I walked toward the elevator, my mind already set. Connor Hayes thought I was another quiet, aging woman too polite to fight back. He was about to learn that quiet and weak are not the same thing. By morning, the storm had buried the city under white silence. I woke before sunrise, brewed coffee, and opened my notebook. 1 page, 1 line. Find Connor Hayes. At 6 sharp, Martin Cole called. "I got your message." "I need your help," I replied. "Police have a warrant for him already." "I'm not waiting for police." A pause. "Then tell me what you want." "Everything. His accounts, his debts, his last transactions. He ordered the chocolates through a fake business. I want to know who created it." Martin exhaled. "I'll bring Eli Turner. He's better at digging through garbage." "Good." We met an hour later at his downtown office. Files lined the walls like soldiers. Martin looked the same. Gray suit, steady eyes, patient voice. He slid a folder across the desk. "Preliminary report. Eli traced the payment." Eli Turner sat beside him, tall, quiet, expression unreadable. "It went through 3 shells," he said. "A defunct catering company, a prepaid card, and an offshore account registered in your son-in-law's name." I turned the page. The transfer date was 2 days before Christmas. "He planned it carefully." Eli nodded. "There's more. He bought life insurance under your daughter's name 6 months ago. Beneficiary himself." I kept my tone even. "For how much?" $350,000. Martin leaned forward. "He also tried to access your estate records last summer. The clerk flagged it because he wasn't authorized." "He was building motive," I said. Martin gave a short nod. "Forgery, fraud, attempted murder. We can move on all 3. "Start with forgery. It leaves paper. Then file the rest." Eli scribbled a note. "You sure you don't want to wait until the police close their investigation?" "I'm sure." He studied me a moment. "You're not shaken." "I was," I said. "Now I'm busy." Martin smiled faintly. "Same Nora as always." "Different case," I answered. "This time, it's family." Eli gathered his folders. "We'll pull his phone logs, cross-check his calls. If he's hiding, it won't be long." I nodded. "When you find him, I want to be the first to know." Martin adjusted his glasses. "You'll get a call." I stood, buttoned my coat. "I'll be at the hospital." On the way out, I stopped by the courthouse steps. Snowflakes caught in my hair, melted instantly. I looked up at the flagpole, motionless against the pale sky. Inside my pocket, the note crinkled softly. No trace if consumed within 12 hours. Every letter burned in memory now. At the hospital. Clara, Isabella's housekeeper who had practically raised Lila since birth, waited by the window, her hands wrapped around a paper cup. "Lila's stable," she said quietly. "Doctors say she's lucky." "She is," I answered. Clara hesitated. "Isabella's still with the detectives. They've been asking about Connor's accounts." "Good," I said. "She needs to cooperate fully." Clara frowned. "You're calm about all this." "I don't waste time shaking." She looked at me, uncertain. "What are you going to do?" "End it clean." Clara lowered her voice. "Connor called me this morning. Blocked number. He asked if Lila was alive." I felt my pulse slow. "Did you answer?" "I told him yes." He hung up. "Where were you when he called?" "At home." "Traceable?" "I don't know." I took out my phone. "Next time, record it. Don't speak, just listen." Her hands trembled. "You think he'll come back?" "He already has." The elevator doors opened behind us. 2 officers stepped out, whispering into radios. They walked past without a glance. I watched them disappear down the hall. Clara's eyes followed mine. "You think he's near?" "I think he's watching." Outside the glass, a dark sedan idled by the curb, engine running. No one inside moved. I memorized the plate number before it pulled away. Clara noticed. "Someone you know?" "Not yet." I waited until the car turned the corner. Then I took a deep breath. "Clara, stay with Lila. Don't leave this floor. Not for a second." She nodded, voice shaking. "What will you do?" "I'll make sure he doesn't have anywhere left to hide." Back in my car, I called Martin again. "He's nearby," I told him. He called Clara. Martin's tone sharpened. We'll flag it with the detectives. They'll triangulate. Do it fast. I will. And Nora, don't confront him alone. I won't, I said, though I already knew I would. I ended the call, started the engine, and pulled into traffic. Snow kept falling, heavy and relentless. I followed the same road Connor used to take to his office, past the bank, past the cafe he liked. Every light turned red, but I didn't rush. Patience wins wars. Somewhere out there, Connor Hayes thought the storm would hide him. He forgot. Storms clear eventually, and when they do, the tracks always show. That night, I returned home after midnight. The house was silent, the kind of silence that asks questions. I locked the door, turned on one lamp, and placed the evidence bag on the table. The red box sat inside, sealed and harmless now. I stared at it for a long moment before opening my notebook. No emotion, only plan. I wrote it twice, then underlined it. Next line, justice works on paper. I took out the folder Martin had given me. Copies of Connor's forged documents, payment trails, insurance papers. The pattern was clear. He'd been preparing for this for months. He used my daughter's name, my trust, and my silence. Those were his mistakes. The clock struck 1. I called Martin. He answered immediately. Still awake? I don't sleep through betrayal. He didn't comment. Eli found something new. Connor sold his car yesterday. Cash deal. Running. Probably. What about his accounts? Frozen as of this afternoon. Police are tracking his cards. Good. That means he's desperate. Martin paused. And dangerous. I know. He sighed quietly. We'll file the forgery case first thing tomorrow. The murder attempt follows once toxicology confirms the poison. Do both, I said. He hesitated. You're sure? Yes. Then you'll have to testify. I will. He exhaled again, slower this time. All right. I'll prepare the documents. When the call ended, I poured a cup of tea and sat by the window. Outside, the snow had stopped. The streetlights made the world look clean, as if it had been scrubbed of everything unholy. On the counter, my phone buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. Still alive? No name, no punctuation. I didn't reply. Instead, I photographed the message and forwarded it to Martin. From Connor, likely burner phone. He answered 2 minutes later, already tracing. I turned off the phone, unplugged the lamp, and sat in darkness. My mind went still. There was nothing to say, only things to do. I reached for a blank envelope and began labeling evidence. Photos, notes, the hidden letter, the delivery slip, everything in order. When I was done, I placed the pen down carefully beside it. Pen, paper, order. That's how wars are won. I checked the locks once more before heading to the bedroom. The house felt heavy but safe. Every door sealed, every window latched. As I passed the mirror in the hallway, I stopped. For the first time in days, I looked at my reflection. My eyes looked different. Clearer, colder. Not grief. Focus. Lila's laughter echoed faintly from memory, followed by Isabella's voice, broken and small. I didn't know, Mom. I whispered to the empty hallway. Now you do. In the morning, I would meet Martin at the courthouse. I would sign every document, every charge, every declaration. There would be no tears, no hesitation, no chance for Connor Hayes to rewrite the story. Because this time, the paper would speak for me. I turned off the last light and went to bed. Sleep came late, but when it did, it was deep and without dreams. Morning came gray and cold. I arrived at Martin's office before 8. The lights were already on, coffee steaming beside a pile of folders. Martin stood by the window, reading a report. Without greeting, he handed it to me. Connor's offshore trail, 3 accounts all drained last night. How much? Nearly everything he had. He's moving fast. Too fast, Martin replied. He's sloppy now. Eli Turner entered, coat still wet from the snow. We traced his burner phone. Signal pinged 2 miles from the state line around midnight. He's not across yet. He will be, I said. Eli placed a folder on the table. That's the forgery file. Bank records, falsified power of attorney, signatures. He tried to transfer one of your properties to his name. It failed when the notary flagged your birth date. I flipped through the pages. My own signature stared back at me. Copied, precise, but not perfect. He forged my name, I murmured. That's enough. Martin nodded. Forgery carries 5 years minimum. Attempted murder adds 15. Then file both. Eli raised an eyebrow. That's aggressive. I don't play soft with people who try to bury me. Martin smiled faintly. That's the Nora I remember. He opened another folder. Police found his laptop at home, hidden drive, contained drafts of fake invoices and the chocolate order confirmation. So it's airtight, I said. Tighter than most cases I've seen, Eli replied. And your daughter's statement matches the records. She's been cooperating since last night. I looked out the window. Snowflakes drifted like ash. Good. She's learning. Martin gathered the documents and placed them neatly into a binder. Once you sign these, we'll submit to the district court. Detectives are preparing an arrest order. I took the pen, signed each page slowly, carefully. When I finished, I closed the binder and pushed it back to him. Justice doesn't wait, I said. He gave a short nod. We'll handle the rest. You should rest too. I'll rest when he's in custody. Eli checked his watch. We'll keep you updated every hour. They left the room to file the papers. I stayed by the desk, staring at the empty coffee cup. For a moment, I let myself breathe. Then I opened my phone. Dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers. One voicemail. I pressed play. Static. Then a man's voice. Low. Uneven. You think you've won, Nora? You don't know what you've started. I saved the message, forwarded it to Martin, and locked the phone. Outside, sirens passed in the distance. The city moved as if nothing had changed, but it had. I gathered my coat, left the office, and walked into the freezing air. By noon, news alerts flashed across my screen. Businessman, under investigation for forgery and attempted poisoning. Connor's name, his photo, his company's logo. Public now, permanent. I walked into a cafe nearby, ordered tea, and sat by the window. The cashier recognized me from the article on her phone. She didn't say a word, just nodded with quiet respect. The first step of justice is exposure. Once truth breathes, it doesn't suffocate again. My phone buzzed. Martin. Everything's filed, his voice crisp through the line. The judge approved. Warrant issued. Good. They'll bring him in before sunset. I'll be waiting. I hung up, sipped my tea, and watched the street outside. Snow fell in soft sheets, covering footprints before they hardened. Paper trails stay longer than footprints. Connor forgot that. When I left the cafe, the world looked calm again. Too calm for what was coming next. The courthouse lobby was full of cameras and noise. Justice had turned into entertainment. I stood for a moment by the entrance, then walked in. The crowd quieted without knowing why. Martin met me near the stairs. You didn't have to come. I did. He studied me. You look different. I should. I had cut my hair short that morning. Simple, clean. My black coat fit sharply against the pale light. Not mourning. Readiness. Eli appeared beside him. Here. He handed me a badge. Stay visible. Cameras like composure. I don't flinch. We moved through the hall. Reporters whispered, their pens already moving. They expected grief. I gave them order. Then movement near the entrance stopped everything. Officers walked in with Connor Hayes between them, wrists cuffed, coat still dusted with snow. His eyes found mine instantly. No surprise, no shame, just that same shallow confidence. You look well, Nora. I didn't answer. He smiled, thin and bitter. Busy woman, aren't you? So are you. He tilted his head. You could have stayed quiet. Silence protects criminals, not mothers. His smile dropped. You think you've won? I think you're finished. The officers pulled him forward, but he twisted once to look back. You'll regret this. I stayed still. You already do. They led him away. The sound of his steps vanished down the marble corridor. Martin exhaled. He'll plead guilty. Let him. Eli folded his arms. He looked smaller than I imagined. Everyone does when truth touches them. Shy. Across the hall, Isabella stood with Clara. She looked fragile, holding her own arms like she was keeping herself together. Our eyes met. She walked over slowly. Mom. Isabella. Her voice was quiet. They showed me his confession. The documents, the account transfers. It's all there. I know. She swallowed. I don't understand how I missed it. You didn't miss it. You ignored it. Her shoulders fell. I wanted to believe him. That was your mistake. Her eyes glistened. I'm sorry. I know. She hesitated. You're not angry? I don't waste energy on what's already broken. She nodded faintly. You've changed. I've remembered who I am. She looked down. You're colder. Clearer. For a moment, she had no words. Then she whispered, Will you ever forgive me? I don't carry debts. Her breath caught. You mean? I mean we start even, that's all. Martin returned with a clipboard. Press outside wants a comment. I don't give comments. Then what do I tell them? Tell them justice works quietly. He nodded once. I walked to the center of the hall. The Christmas tree still stood there, its lights dim from too many nights. Cameras flashed as I passed. A young reporter called out, Mrs. Whitfield, what happens now? Life, I answered. Another voice. Do you have anything to say to your son-in-law? Yes. I looked straight at the nearest lens. Actions echo. The room fell silent. Then pens started moving again, flashes returning, voices rising like distant static. I turned, walked past Isabella, who stood still among the crowd. You look alive, she whispered. I am. I pushed open the courthouse door. The cold met me first. Sharp, clean, honest. Snow drifted down without sound. Behind me, the doors closed, sealing the noise inside. The world outside felt honest again. The restaurant was crowded, all silverware and soft music. I sat near the back, watching the entrance. Martin sat 2 tables away, reading a menu he didn't need. Clara had asked to meet, her message short. We need to talk. It's about Isabella. When she arrived, her eyes were red. She's losing control, she whispered as she sat down. I found her deleting files from your account. I stopped her, but she's panicking. Then we let her panic, I answered. Truth moves faster when fear pushes it. The waiter approached. I ordered coffee. Clara ordered nothing. Her hands shook. She thinks no one knows, but Eli traced everything. Emails, signatures, the fake withdrawals. She built her own trap, I said, stirring the cup once, not for taste, but for focus. The door opened. Isabella walked in. Perfect hair, calm face, the illusion of control. She hadn't seen Clara's message. When her eyes met mine, her steps faltered. For the first time, she looked unsure. She came to our table. Mother, her tone rehearsed, you could have called instead of ambushing me. I tried, I answered. You stopped answering when the bank called. Her jaw tightened. You had no right to involve the bank. I had no choice when the police called first. Color drained from her face. People nearby turned slightly, sensing something. You think you can humiliate me in public? She hissed. I don't need to, I replied. You did that when you forged my name. Clara reached into her purse and placed a folder on the table. These are the transfers. Every signature. Every date. Isabella's hand trembled. You went through my files? No, I answered. The law did. The air changed. The quiet around us thickened. She turned to Clara. You betrayed me? I protected the child you almost killed, Clara replied. The word killed cut through the clinking glasses and soft jazz. Heads turned. Someone took out a phone. The sound of a recording app clicked faintly. "You don't know what you're talking about," Isabella muttered, voice cracking. Clara leaned forward. "I know you made those chocolates. I know Lila almost died." The room stilled. My fingers rested on the table. "It's done," I said quietly. "The police have the lab report. The foundation has your records. You're finished." She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. Martin was already beside her, presenting his ID to 2 officers entering the restaurant. "Detective Miller requested immediate custody," he told them. "The warrant signed." The officers moved fast, polite, professional. One reached for her arm. She flinched. "Don't touch me," she cried, voice breaking. "She's lying." "Everything's documented," Martin replied. "Forgery, embezzlement, attempted poisoning." Phones recorded. Cameras flashed. The quiet room turned into a courtroom. "Mom, please," she gasped. "Don't let them take me." I looked at her without expression. "You already took everything from yourself." The officers led her out through the back door. The murmur grew louder, chairs moving, whispers spreading. The image was clear. The daughter in cuffs, the mother still seated, untouched. Clara covered her face with both hands. "I didn't want it to end like this." "It ended the only way truth allows," I replied. Martin returned with a short nod. "It's done. The evidence package is filed." "Good," I answered. "Now justice begins." We left the restaurant. Outside, cold air hit my face. Across the street, cameras blinked red. The story was already moving faster than any of us. By evening, the video appeared online. The title read, "Woman Arrested After Public Confrontation with Mother and Sister-in-Law." The comments multiplied, some cruel, some shocked, all watching. Eli called within the hour. "It's spreading. News outlets are verifying." "Let them," I said. "Facts don't fear attention." At midnight, the phone rang again. A journalist wanted a statement. I declined. Silence was stronger than explanation. When the house finally went quiet, I sat by the window. The city below still buzzed. I watched headlights crossing intersections like veins of light through darkness. On the table lay the folder Clara had left. Evidence of betrayal turned into proof of consequence. For years, Isabella had thrived on invisibility, her crimes hidden behind family names and gentle smiles. Tonight, that invisibility collapsed. Justice didn't knock. It entered, signed papers, and left quietly. Outside, snow began to fall, slow, deliberate, inevitable. The city would wake to headlines, to a daughter's downfall, to a mother's silence. And I would wake to continue what I had started. The courtroom was cold, white walls, gray floor, the faint echo of shuffled papers. I took my seat behind Martin. The air carried that quiet weight before justice begins, the silence people mistake for peace. Across the room, Isabella entered in cuffs. Her hair was unbrushed, her clothes too neat for the face wearing them. She scanned the room, eyes darting toward me, then away. I didn't move. I had stopped reacting months ago. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the session began. Martin opened the first file. "Your Honor, Exhibit A." A video played on the large screen. The restaurant footage. The crowd, the confrontation, the moment she shouted, the officers leading her away. No one in the room spoke. The sound of a glass clinking in the video was louder than breath. When it ended, Martin placed the next folder on the desk. Exhibit B. Eli's compiled records, forged signatures, fake withdrawals, duplicate accounts. Each page carried her name, my name, copied, shaped, stolen. The judge reviewed each line. "Forgery confirmed," he noted. His pen moved like a clock hand, steady, indifferent. Then came the recording, the one from Lila's toy phone. Clara had found it after the hospital night. Lila had recorded a bedtime message, a child's voice whispering, "Mom made candies for Grandma. She said Grandma will never know." The courtroom froze. The prosecutor paused the audio, rewound it, played it again. That single line became the entire case. Isabella's shoulders trembled. She tried to compose herself, but her lips shook. Martin closed the folder and stepped back. Your Honor, all evidence aligns with attempted homicide through deliberate poisoning, financial fraud, and identity forgery. The judge turned to the defense table. Ms. Whitfield, do you wish to testify? She hesitated. Her lawyer whispered, but she didn't move. Then she stood. Her voice came low, unsteady. I made mistakes. I wanted control over what was already mine. I never wanted her dead. I just wanted freedom. The judge raised his hand. Freedom isn't theft, and family isn't immunity. Isabella's eyes filled with panic. She hates me. She's always hated me. She wants to ruin me. I watched her break, calm, not cruel, just finished. Martin leaned toward me. You can respond if you wish. I rose. My chair didn't creak. The room stilled. I have nothing to ruin, I began. She did that herself. I gave her everything a mother can give. Time, patience, trust. She turned all three into weapons. Now I give her the only thing left, consequence. The judge's gavel tapped once. Order. The prosecutor continued, reading the timeline. December 25th, delivery confirmed by courier. December 26th, emergency admission, positive cyanide trace. December 28th, digital transfer attempt. The facts unfolded with mechanical precision. No one interrupted. There were no outbursts, no tears, only paperwork and truth. When the defense tried to question intent, the audio replayed. Lila's small voice again, clear as daylight. She said, Grandma will never know. The jury took notes silently. I watched their pens move in unison. Logic was doing what emotion could never achieve. After closing arguments, the judge dismissed both sides to wait. The recess lasted 20 minutes. I didn't stand. Martin checked his watch. Clara and Lila waited outside, protected from the scene. When the judge returned, everyone rose again. He unfolded the verdict paper. On the count of attempted murder, guilty. On the count of forgery, guilty. On the count of financial fraud, guilty. The sound of the gavel struck the air like a sharp breath. Sentence: 12 years in state prison without parole for the first 8. The courtroom exhaled. Isabella's knees gave out. 2 officers steadied her. She turned toward me. Mom, please, don't let them... I stood, eyes steady. Justice isn't mine. It belongs to truth. Her voice broke. You can stop this. I shook my head once. Justice is quiet. That's why it works. The officers led her out. Her footsteps echoed through the corridor, softer each second, until only the gavel's memory remained. Martin gathered the folders. It's done, he murmured. It's done, Martin murmured, closing the heavy binder. The sound was final, like a stone dropping into deep water. I remained seated for a moment, listening to the fading echo of Isabella's footsteps. I didn't answer him immediately. In that courtroom surrounded by wood and silence, I realized that justice doesn't feel like victory. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like the quiet after a terrible storm where you walk out to see your house still standing, but the trees are gone. Nora? Martin asked gently. I'm ready, I said. I stood up, smoothing the creases of my coat. I didn't look back at the empty defendant's chair. We walked out into the corridor. The heavy oak doors swung shut behind us, sealing away the past few months of sterile lights and legal arguments. Outside, the hallway was a tunnel of noise. Cameras flashed like lightning, blinding and rhythmless. Reporters surged forward, a wave of hungry voices asking questions that didn't matter. Mrs. Whitfield, how do you feel sending your own daughter to prison? Do you regret calling the police? Is there any chance of reconciliation? I didn't slow down. I didn't look at them. Their questions were about drama. My life was about survival. Martin and Eli moved like shields on either side of me, clearing a path through the chaos. I kept my eyes fixed on the exit signs, green, glowing, promising air. When we pushed through the front doors of the courthouse, the cold winter air hit me. It was sharp and clean, smelling of snow and city exhaust. It was the honest smell of the real world. Across the street, away from the madness, Clara stood waiting. She was holding Lila's hand. The little girl was wearing her bright pink winter hat, a spot of innocent color in a gray world. When she saw me, she didn't run. She waved, a small, hesitant motion. I crossed the street, leaving the reporters behind on the courthouse steps. When I reached them, Lila looked up at me with eyes that knew too much for her age, yet not enough to be broken. "Is it over, Grandma?" she asked. Her voice was small, muffled by her scarf. I knelt down, ignoring the wet pavement soaking into my knees, so I could look her in the eye. "Yes, sweetheart. The bad part is over." "Is Mom? Is she coming home?" I brushed a snowflake from her cheek. "No, not for a long time. She has to go to a place where she can learn to be better, where she can't hurt anyone." Lila nodded slowly. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small paper bag. "I bought these for us," she whispered. "Caramels. I checked the label, Grandma. No almonds. I promise." My heart, which had been frozen solid inside that courtroom, finally cracked. Not with pain, but with warmth. I took the bag, my hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, Lila. You're very brave." "You're brave too," she said. That night, the house was quieter than it had ever been. It wasn't the lonely silence of the past. It was the peaceful silence of order restored. I didn't sleep immediately. Instead, I sat in my study, the only light coming from the desk lamp. Martin had left the final stack of documents on my desk. The trust fund. I picked up my pen. This was the last step. The papers detailed the transfer of all assets, the inheritance that Connor had tried to steal, that Isabella had tried to kill for, into the Whitfield Protection Foundation. Every dollar would now go to help elderly victims of financial abuse and fraud. I read the legal words one last time. Irrevocable. Permanent. Signing those papers felt heavier than the verdict. A verdict is just the law speaking. Disinheriting your child is a mother's final, terrible surgery. It is cutting off a limb to save the body. I signed my name. Nora Whitfield. The ink glistened for a second before drying. It was done. I wasn't leaving Isabella money. I was leaving her a lesson, even if she never understood it. Months passed. The seasons changed from the biting white of winter to the tentative green of spring, and finally to the gold of autumn. Life rebuilt itself, not in a rush, but in layers. Clara took charge of the house, her laughter returning to the kitchen. Lila thrived in school, her nightmares fading, replaced by piano lessons and math homework. And I worked. The foundation became my purpose. We handled 49 cases in the first 6 months. 49 people who, like me, had been underestimated. 49 predators who thought gray hair meant weakness. I never visited the prison. People asked me why. They called me cold. They didn't understand. I didn't visit because I had nothing left to say. I had given Isabella 35 years of words, of guidance, of love. She had traded them all for a box of poisoned chocolates. There are no words left after that. But on the 1-year anniversary of the verdict, I sat down and wrote one final thing. Not a legal document, a letter. Isabella, the leaves are turning brown in the garden. Lila is tall now. She asks about you less often. I am writing this not to forgive you, but to release you. For a year I have wondered if I failed you, if I loved you too much or too little, if I was too strict or too blind, but I realized something today. We are not responsible for the souls of others, only for how we treat them. You chose your path. You chose greed over blood. And in doing so, you taught me that I am stronger than I thought. You tried to end my life, but you only restarted it. I hope you find peace in your silence. I have found mine. Nora. I didn't mail it. Writing it was the release. Sending it would be an engagement, a tether keeping us connected. I folded the letter, struck a match, and watched it burn in the fireplace. The paper curled into black ash, the words disappearing into smoke. It went up the chimney, out into the cold night air, gone. The next morning, I drove to the coast. It was a ritual I had promised myself. The ocean has always been my place of clarity. The water looked like liquid steel, vast and indifferent. The wind was strong, whipping my coat around my legs, tasting of salt and spray. I walked along the empty shoreline until the town was just a blur behind me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the object I had carried for exactly 1 year, the silver foil wrapper from the chocolate box. It was wrinkled now, the gold lettering faded. Handmade Belgian chocolates. Innocent, elegant, deadly. I held it up to the gray sky. This small piece of trash represented the moment my world broke. It represented the betrayal, the police lights, the hospital room, the fear in Lila's eyes. For a year, I had kept it as evidence, as a reminder to never let my guard down, to never be just a naive old woman again. But looking at it now, against the vastness of the ocean, it looked pathetic. It was just garbage. I realized I didn't need the reminder anymore. I didn't need the anger to keep me warm. The foundation was running. Lila was safe. I was alive. "I win," I whispered. The wind took the words and carried them away. I didn't throw the wrapper with anger. I didn't crumple it. I simply opened my hand. The wind caught the silver foil immediately. It danced in the air for a second, catching a stray beam of sunlight, flashing like a coin. Then it dipped, twisted, and fell into the churning white foam of the surf. A wave rose up, dark and heavy, and swallowed it. I watched for a long time. It didn't float back up. The sea took it, just as time takes everything eventually. A sense of lightness spread through my chest, a feeling I hadn't recognized in so long I had almost forgotten it. It was peace, not the temporary relief of a court verdict, but the deep, marrow-level peace of having no debts, no enemies, and no fear. I turned my back on the water and began the walk back to the car. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It could be Martin with a new case. It could be Clara asking about dinner. It didn't matter. It would wait. I walked past an old man fishing off the pier. He nodded at me. "Storm's coming, ma'am," he said, pointing to the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. I stopped and looked up. The clouds were heavy, purple and bruised, promising a heavy rain. A year ago, that sky would have terrified me. Now, I just smiled. "Let it come," I said. "Everything looks cleaner after the rain." I got into my car and drove home. When I entered the house, the warmth wrapped around me. I could hear Lila practicing the piano in the living room, a simple, halting melody, but played with determination. The smell of roasting chicken drifted from the kitchen. The mundane, beautiful sounds of a life being lived. I walked into my study and sat at my desk. The drawer where I used to keep the evidence file was empty. The safe where I kept the chocolates was empty. I opened my journal. The pages were filled with dates, court appointments, lawyer fees, and notes on poison symptoms. I turned past all of them, past the pain, past the confusion, until I reached a clean, blank white page. I picked up my pen. I didn't write a list of enemies. I didn't write a plan for revenge. I wrote 5 words. The balance is finally restored. I closed the book. I placed the pen down, perfectly parallel to the spine. Lila stopped playing the piano. "Grandma?" she called out. "Are you home?" I stood up, leaving the dark study behind. I walked into the light of the hallway, where my granddaughter was waiting. "I'm here, Lila," I said, my voice steady and strong. "I'm right here." And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was home. And that was the story of My Daughter Sent Me a Box of Chocolates for Christmas. But I gave them to my granddaughter instead. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive with noise or applause. It comes in silence, through decisions made quietly, one document at a time, one truth at a time. Nora's strength didn't come from anger. It came from clarity, from her ability to see that peace isn't found in revenge, but in the balance that follows it. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect on what justice means in your own life. Not the kind written in courtrooms, but the kind built in ordinary moments, when we choose truth over comfort, order over chaos, dignity over pride. Stories like this remind us that power doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like a woman sitting alone at a desk, signing her name to the right thing. Thank you for spending this time with us here on Grandma Life Stories, where we share voices of courage, calm strength, and quiet redemption. Your support helps keep these stories alive for people who believe that age is not weakness and that wisdom still wins in the end. If you found meaning here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that justice, real justice, doesn't scream. It simply stands. We appreciate your time, your heart, and your presence. This is Grandma Life Stories, where every ending brings peace and every silence carries truth. Until next time, may your home stay calm, your days stay honest, and your heart stay steady. We'll meet again in the next story.